Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? Thanks. They say exhaustion makes you vulnerable. That when you're too tired to care, that's when the cracks in your routine start to show. The ones other people might notice. But I wasn't thinking about that the night it happened. I wasn't thinking about anything at all, really. All I wanted were dumplings. That night was just supposed to be another Thursday. Long, dull, forgettable. I'd worked a morning shift restocking at Home Nest over on 32nd, then pulled a full evening stretch at the urgent care clinic front desk. 10.5 hours of fake smiles, barking coughs, and too many people telling me about symptoms I didn't need to hear. By the time I left, my lower back felt like it had been kicked by a horse, and I could smell every hour I'd been in those scrubs. Alcohol wipes, latex, microwaved soup, and something vaguely like sadness. The Walmart on 4th Plain was on my route home. It wasn't the best store, not the cleanest, not the cheapest. Too bright inside, too quiet in the parking lot. But it was open, and that mattered more than anything. I figured I'd get a bag of frozen dumplings, maybe some oat milk or cereal if the price was right. Quick in and out. I'd done it 100 times before. The routine had become muscle memory. I parked in my usual spot under that one flickering overhead light in row D, near the second cart return. It was past 9, and the lot was already thinning out. Just a few scattered cars and an idle cart or two, like the leftovers from a meal someone forgot to clean up. I stepped out of my car and locked it with my thumb, keys already looped through my fingers the way I was taught when I first started working late shifts. Not because anything had happened before, just because it was smart. Inside the store, the air was over-conditioned and the silence was broken only by the soft beep of a faraway scanner and some kid's feet slapping against tile in the next aisle over. The kind of atmosphere that makes you feel both invisible and watched at the same time. I moved slow, worn down and running on fumes. I didn't even grab a cart at first, just grabbed a basket and went straight for the frozen foods. Dumplings, check. Oat milk next. I wasn't really looking at people until I saw him. He was standing near the cereal aisle, maybe 10 feet from me. Late 30s or early 40s, tan windbreaker, worn ball cap pulled low. He was holding 2 boxes of oatmeal, staring at the back like he was doing long division. Something about his stillness caught me, like he didn't fit the rhythm of the space around him, like he was waiting for a cue. I moved on. People linger all the time. It didn't mean anything. But then I saw him again, in frozen foods. Still no cart, no basket. Just his hands in his pockets, moving slow, like he was browsing but never actually picking anything up. I turned down a different aisle, trying not to let my imagination get the better of me. Could have been a coincidence. People shop in loops, especially in stores like Walmart where the layout pushes you in circles. But then I saw him a third time, near yogurt. He was closer this time. I could feel it. I pulled out my phone and pretended to check a text, just to create some distance between us, to anchor myself in a fake task. That's when he stepped toward me. Hey, excuse me. His voice was soft, polite, almost too polite, the kind of tone that tries to put you at ease on purpose. I looked up. Yeah? Sorry if this is weird, he said with a sheepish little smile. Just moved here. Still getting used to stuff. You look like you eat healthy. Any idea which of these is decent? He gestured toward the wall of yogurt like it was a complicated puzzle. I pointed without thinking. That one's fine. Vanilla. Not too sweet. He nodded, as if that solved something. Thanks, he said, holding it like it mattered. You from around here? His tone was casual but too familiar. The way people sound when they're already 5 questions in ahead of you. I shrugged. Not really. Just in and out. He smiled again. Too wide this time. I feel like I've seen you here before. You usually shop late? The blood drained from my face. My breath caught. I don't think so, I said, already shifting my basket. angling to move. "I don't come here that much." He laughed softly. "Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. You've just got one of those familiar faces, you know." I gave him the tightest smile I could manage and turned down the snack aisle without a word. Inside, my instincts were already sounding off like alarms. But you learn not to make noise, not to panic. Panic draws attention and attention gets you followed. So I moved quick but casual, looping through canned goods, pet food, back around the registers. He wasn't right behind me, but I could feel him somewhere nearby, still inside. At self-checkout, I scanned my items with hands that wouldn't stay still. Oat milk, dumplings, a granola bar from clearance. No cereal. I kept glancing at the reflection in the glass in front of me, watching the rows behind me like I was looking for a ghost. Then I saw him again. He was at the next checkout lane. Not checking out, not talking to anyone. Just standing there, holding a bottle of water and a pack of mints. That was it. That was all he had. And somehow he'd spent 20 minutes wandering 3 sections of the store to land on that. I finished and walked to the exit, phone to my ear like I was mid-conversation. "Yeah, just grabbing groceries now. I'll be home in 10. My voice steady, casual, for no one. Outside the night was cold, air sharp in my nose, breath fogging. I kept my keys tight in my hand. The lot looked the same, but nothing felt the same. Every sound, distant tires, a door closing, sounded like a footstep behind me. Then I saw someone moving behind me in my side mirror. I spun. It was a woman, gray sweatshirt, returning her cart. I exhaled hard, smiled a little at her. She didn't look up. I got in my car, locked the doors, and sat there for a moment with the engine off, just breathing. No one knocked. No one came up to my window. I didn't see him exit. Still, I didn't drive straight home. I circled the lot once. Slow, no sign of him. No cars pulling out behind me. No one lingering near the exit. But that didn't mean I wasn't being watched. When I got back to my apartment, I left the bag on the counter and sat in the dark. No music, no phone, just silence. I listened to the hallway, watched the windows, told myself I was overreacting. Then I remembered what he said. "You usually shop late." He was right. Thursday nights after the clinic, I always stopped for groceries around 9. Same store, same lot, same aisle, more or less. I'd built a routine to survive. But maybe someone else had built a plan around it. I started changing things after that. Different stores, different days, different exits from the parking lot. Jasmine, one of my co-workers, noticed and asked, and I told her the short version. She didn't laugh or say I was paranoid. She just said, "You want me to come next time?" But even with all that, the unease didn't go away. A few weeks later, I stopped at a different Walmart across town, middle of the day, bright sunlight, just cold meds and some tea after a rough week of flu season chaos at work. As I reached for a bottle of cough syrup, someone behind me asked, "Excuse me, is this one any good?" My whole body locked up. I turned slow. It wasn't him, just some tired-looking dad holding up 2 bottles like they were riddles. I smiled and helped him pick. Not every stranger is dangerous. But ever since that night, I still check the mirrors. I still keep my keys between my fingers. I still park under a different light each time. Because danger doesn't always announce itself. It watches. It waits. And sometimes it smiles too much. How many people have seen you go through the same door the same night at the same time without you even noticing them? How do you know when someone's just shopping or watching? And how close do they need to get before it's already too late? So let me ask you, when was the last time you changed your routine? It's strange how you remember the little moments. Not the loud arguments or even the quiet lies, but the in-between. Like the way Natalie avoided my eyes when she tossed the phone on the kitchen counter, told me I could take care of the return since I had more time. That was her new way of asking me to do things lately. Passive, clipped, like everything she said had an invisible string tied to it. We'd been together 4 years, lived together almost 3. But the last 6 months? It felt like sharing a house with someone underwater. All murky silences and muffled tension. I could feel it all the time. This pressure, like we were balancing on cracked ice, and neither of us wanted to be the one to fall through first. I knew the track phone wasn't defective. The box was still sealed, untouched. The receipt sat too perfectly flat on the counter, like it hadn't been folded and shoved in a purse. I asked about it once, casually. Did it not work right? And she just said something vague about glitches. No specifics. No mention of when she tried it or what went wrong. I didn't ask again. I just said I'd take care of it. The Walmart on E. Hampton was about a 20-minute drive from our place. I finished my last Uber drop around 6:30 and figured I'd swing by before heading home. February in Denver always carries that weird dead air feel. Sunset turns everything gray and sharp. Snow in the parking lot was melting into slush, refreezing in places like small traps. Inside, the customer service line was its usual mess. A man arguing over a broken coffee maker, a mom trying to juggle her screaming toddler in a cart full of impulse buys, 5 people ahead of me. I settled in and let my feet throb a little from a long day behind the wheel. That's when I noticed him. He was off to the side, not in line, not browsing, just there. Hoodie up, beard patchy, staring in that way some people do when they're either very drunk or very deliberate. His eyes didn't move like a shopper's. They scanned people, paused too long, blinked too little. At first, I figured he was waiting on someone. Maybe a ride. Maybe just killing time. But he didn't check his phone. Didn't shift much. Just stood there like he was measuring the air. I tried to ignore it. I was too tired to entertain someone else's weirdness. I reached the counter. Cassandra, the cashier, looked about as over it as I felt. Returning a track phone, I said, placing the sealed box and receipt in front of her. She barely glanced at it. Card or cash? Card. And then, just as she processed it, I felt something shift in the air behind me. That odd tickle between your shoulder blades. I didn't even need to turn to know. Hey, a voice said, too close. You returning that track phone? I turned slowly. It was him, the hoodie guy, closer than before, way too close. Yeah, why? He scratched his jaw. Just wondering, thinking of getting one for my kid, but they're kind of junk, right? I guess, I said curt. Didn't work well for us. Mind if I see it? Just want to know the model. Cassandra looked up sharply. Sorry, sir, it's already processed. He doesn't have the phone anymore. He held up his hands like I'd pointed a gun at him. All right, chill. I grabbed my refund and walked off. I didn't look back until I was past the exit. I don't know why I waited before heading to the car. Maybe it was the way his tone shifted. Too smooth, too interested. Or the fact that Natalie hadn't opened the box. Through the glass I spotted him again. Still no bag, no cart. Just drifting sideways through the edge of the store, past the registers into the darker lot. Detoured. Took a hard left into the front bathroom. Locked myself in the handicap stall and sat, fully clothed, phone in hand. I didn't scroll, didn't call anyone, just breathed. 5 minutes passed, no footsteps, no sounds, but the buzz of fluorescent lights and someone flushing 2 stalls down. When I left, I didn't go out the front. I slipped through the garden center. Spring prep meant it was still open, even in the cold. Outside, the lot felt quieter, thinner, like whatever had happened inside didn't belong out here. My car was parked under a flickering pole light, 2nd row from the fence. I moved slow. Key clenched between my fingers like Natalie had shown me once. She said it was a thing from her self-defense class, one between each finger like claws. The car beeped as I hit unlock. Then I heard it. Not behind me, off to the side. Light, fast steps crunching on leftover gravel. I turned hard. Empty. No one. Just a row of carts. A few abandoned cars. Nothing moving. Still, I got in fast, locked the doors, started the engine, but I didn't drive home. I circled, took the long way, out to the freeway, then back around, cutting through neighborhoods and random lights. Every time I checked the rear view, it was clear. Natalie was on the couch when I walked in. Laptop open. She didn't look up. "Return the phone," I said, dropping the receipt. "Thanks." Something felt off. I hesitated. "Weird thing happened," I said. Now she looked up. Neutral. Not surprised. Not worried. "Weird how?" "There was a guy at Walmart. Watched me the whole time. Asked questions about the phone. Didn't buy anything. Then wandered out into the lot. I left through the side." She blinked once. "That's weird." That was it. No follow-up. No concern. Just 3 words like she was commenting on the weather. I watched her closely. Too calm. "Do you know him?" I asked. She frowned. "What? No. Why would I?" "I don't know. Maybe because you're acting like this isn't new." She closed her laptop slowly. "Jordan, creeps exist. You're tired. Don't make this into something it's not." I wanted to believe her, but her voice was too even, too prepared. I waited until she went to shower, then I checked her laptop. No messages, no texts, just browser history, searches for burner phones, anonymous texting, Craigslist personal ads, 1 number, no name. I copied it down, called it the next day from a blocked number. No answer. That night I asked her again, "Was the phone really for you?" She didn't say anything, just walked out of the room. It's been weeks. We barely speak. Her phone's locked now, location off. She keeps her laptop shut. I drive longer shifts, sleep in fits. But I still think about the man in the hoodie, about what he wanted, who he was looking for, or if he was just the middleman in something bigger. There's no tidy end to this, no answers, no proof. Just quiet where trust used to live. So now I pay attention. I check my 6. I back into parking spots and listen harder to what people don't say. And sometimes I wonder, how much danger did I walk past that night? And how much followed me home? If someone was trying to send you a warning but it came wrapped in normalcy, would you recognize it in time? Long before I ever got spooked by a self-checkout machine freezing mid-scan or a receipt printer jamming, I learned to fear something far quieter. Something no one warns you about in adulthood. Silence. Not the silence of a calm morning or a lazy Sunday nap. I'm talking about the kind that settles in after someone stops calling. When dinner for 2 becomes microwave meals for 1. The kind that echoes off every surface in your house, no matter how much background noise you try to throw at it. My name's Emily Carson. I'm 37. I teach sophomore English at a public high school in Independence, Missouri. Used to be married. Used to think I was happy. I'd fill my evenings grading essays while my ex watched baseball in the other room. It felt like routine, comfortable, until it wasn't. Divorce doesn't come with a soundtrack. There's no argument montage like in the movies. It's just long weeks of less talking, less eye contact, more dishes left in the sink, until one of you forgets to come home on purpose. After the papers were signed, I told myself I'd rebuild, pick up hobbies, travel, be one of those women who thrives alone. That didn't happen. Instead, I filled my nights with sitcom reruns I'd already memorized, laughed on cue with voices that asked nothing of me. I'd make myself small meals, drink tea out of the same chipped mug. And most nights, I didn't leave the house at all. But that night, I remember it exactly. It was early April, still cold for spring. Wind biting enough to remind you winter wasn't done being petty. I'd had a rough day. One of my students plagiarized his entire essay on Of Mice and Men. Not even cleverly. He pasted a SparkNotes summary like it was a gift. I reported it to the principal, who just waved it off. "You're great with these situations, Emily. Handle it quietly." That's code for, solve it without making me do paperwork. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. I opened the fridge and found half a bag of grapes that looked like thumb-sized raisins, a bottle of mustard, and a questionable yogurt cup I couldn't remember buying. I considered just skipping dinner, but my stomach had other ideas. So I grabbed my keys, pulled on a jacket, and drove to the Walmart neighborhood market off North Church Road. It was close to 9:15 p.m. They closed at 10, and I figured it would be quiet. Quick in, quick out. The parking lot was nearly empty, painted silver by the buzzing fluorescent lights above. The chill hit me hard as I stepped out of the car. A few shopping carts sat lopsided near the corral. Someone had left a soda can on the ground, still half full. I walked fast. Inside, that familiar smell hit me. Cold air, overripe bananas, a faint scent of floor cleaner. The place was almost dead. A stock boy in a navy vest moved boxes and frozen foods. He looked up once and looked away, earbuds probably still in. That was fine. I didn't want to be noticed. Eggs, spinach, orange juice, a box of cereal, a microwavable lasagna for later in the week. I moved quickly, mentally calculating how long until I could be home again, in sweatpants, under my fleece blanket. At self-checkout, I scanned everything. The total was 1914ers. I swiped my card, declined. That didn't make sense. I tried again. Same message. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. Balance was fine. Nothing pending. No overdraft. I blinked at the screen, confused. Then a voice behind me, low and almost casual, made every hair on my arms stand up. Need help with that? He wasn't wearing any store uniform, just a green flannel shirt over a gray tee, old jeans fraying at the cuffs. His hair was messy, and he had that particular kind of tired face you see on men who ride city buses late at night, like they've been going through something for longer than they'll admit. "I'm good, thanks," I said too quickly. He didn't back off. "These things act up sometimes," he said, nodding toward the screen. "Happens to me too. Try cash?" "I don't have any," I replied, managing a stiff smile. He stepped a little closer, still not touching, but inside that invisible boundary we all keep around us. I glanced around. The teenage stalker had disappeared. The front register desk was empty. No staff in sight. "I think I'll just leave it," I said, hitting cancel on the screen. The machine beeped, annoyed. I grabbed my purse and started walking toward the exit, basket abandoned behind me. He said something then, quiet, almost a whisper. "I know what it's like when it gets tight." I didn't turn around, didn't respond, just kept walking. But those words stayed in my head. Not just about money. It felt like something else. Something closer. I reached my car and fumbled with my keys. The automatic lights flicked on, but he wasn't behind me. I checked. Empty. I drove home, gripping the wheel like it was the only real thing in the world. My house lights felt too bright when I pulled into the driveway. I didn't sleep well that night. I tried to forget it. Told myself it was just a weird encounter. Maybe he was lonely. Maybe he meant well. Maybe he was just awkward. But the more I tried to shrug it off, the more I caught myself looking over my shoulder. The next day, while at school, I got a notification on my phone. Your Walmart account was accessed from a new device. I didn't even remember signing up for a Walmart account. Opened the app. An unfamiliar iPhone. Kansas City IP. There'd been 2 password reset attempts overnight. My stomach turned cold. I changed the password, enabled 2-factor, changed every password I could think of after that. Email, bank, Amazon, Netflix. That night, I kept checking my windows, turning off lights just to see better outside. I told myself it was fine, but it wasn't. Friday afternoon, the school IT guy flagged me down, told me they'd seen unusual login attempts on my school email. Out-of-state IPs said they were resetting it for safety. I nodded, pretended it was no big deal, but deep down I felt that same pressure again. Tight. Tuesday came and I didn't go out. I ordered groceries online. Delivery showed up around 8 p.m. A high schooler dropped them off. Seemed harmless. I thanked him and locked up fast. I checked the bags. Something was off. 2 almond milks instead of 1. No apples, though I'd ordered them. And tucked inside the bag with the cereal was a folded receipt I didn't recognize. Men's thermal socks, a prepaid phone card, a flashlight. None of them charged to me. I called customer service. The woman on the phone insisted everything was bagged individually. Could someone else's items have been mixed in? I asked. That's not really possible, ma'am, she said. Every order's packed in its own bin. System won't let us merge carts. She offered to escalate the issue. I said okay and hung up. I stared at the flashlight, still in its plastic, cheap, the kind you'd buy in a rush. I tossed it into the trash. That night, my power flickered off, only for a second, but long enough to kill every sound in the house. The heater clicked off. My TV went dark, and just as suddenly, it all came back. Power company called it a blip, but I didn't sleep. 2 nights later, I went back to the store. I needed to see for myself. Needed to know if he was real or just some shape my fear had made. The Walmart looked the same. I parked closer, stayed in the car a minute, watching. Inside, everything was brightly lit. The workers were out. People moved up and down aisles. It looked normal. I bought eggs, apples, bread, milk, paid cash. And near the front door, I saw a bulletin board. Community flyers, lost dogs, babysitting, piano lessons. And there, tacked near the corner, was a flyer. Black and white, grainy, a missing person. Jeremy L., last seen, April 2022. Wearing green flannel shirt. My mouth went dry. I snapped a photo of it and left without looking back. At home, I searched for his name. Found nothing. 1 dead Reddit thread. No news stories. Like the man didn't exist. On Friday, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single receipt from Walmart. My name at the top. Dated the night I saw him. All my groceries listed. Eggs, spinach, cereal, orange juice. Paid in cash. But I never paid for them. I left them there. I shredded it. Burned the pieces in a bowl on my balcony. I haven't gone back to that store. But sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes. A strange banner ad I didn't click. A password reset I didn't request. And always, I hear his voice again, echoing from that aisle like a whisper across glass. I know what it's like when it gets tight. So now I ask you, when the world around you feels a little too quiet, how do you know if it's really silence, or if something's just waiting to be heard? People talk about breakups like they're this sharp, clean cut. One person leaves, the other hurts. Maybe there's crying, maybe not. Friends say things like, "You're better off," or "Time heals." But they never talk about the weeks that come after. The silence that settles in like dust. The gnawing thought that maybe it wasn't as bad as you remember. Maybe it really was you. It took me a long time to stop questioning myself. And even now, some nights, I still do. When I met Tyler, I was 24 and living in a shared apartment with mismatched mugs and a mattress on the floor. I worked nights at a call center for a utility company. Headset pressed to my cheek, fake smiling through power outage complaints. Tyler came in to set up his new account. Said he liked the way I said, "Sir," like I didn't mean it. We laughed. He left his number. I called. He had that easy charm. Wore jeans like they belonged to him. Made you feel like you were the only person in the room. Our first date was Thai takeout on his porch, and I remember thinking, this is what grown-up love looks like. No games, no ghosting, just 2 people wanting the same thing. We moved in together fast, 6 months. He said it just made sense. We were always at each other's places anyway. I had a bad lease. He had an extra room. I told myself this was what compatibility looked like. At first, everything worked. He'd make coffee before I woke up, leave post-it notes on the fridge with dumb puns. He called my mom on her birthday, picked up my prescriptions when I was sick. People would say, "You're so lucky," and I'd nod like I believed them. But love doesn't rot overnight. It dries up in corners, quiet, unnoticed. It started with things that felt small. A comment about how I loaded the dishwasher, a strange tone when I laughed at another man's joke. He'd say I was too emotional, or I always remembered things wrong. I'd apologize even when I wasn't sure what I'd done. He'd sulk until I did. Some nights he'd flip through my texts while I was in the shower, say he was checking something. Other nights he'd sleep facing the wall and ignore me until morning. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd exhale like I was exhausting. Tell me I overthink everything. The scariest part? I still loved him. Or at least the version of him that used to bring me gas station chocolate milk because he knew I liked it cold. The version that knew my Spotify passwords. That held me when my dad got sick. That's what made leaving hard. You don't just mourn the person, they're still alive. You mourn the version of yourself that believed them. The last fight wasn't even memorable. I think it started because I forgot to buy more dish soap. He accused me of not listening, of being distant, of not appreciating him. His voice didn't rise. It dropped. Quiet, surgical. He said, "You're lucky I put up with you." And something inside me cracked. That night I packed what I could into a single suitcase. Toothbrush, laptop, my grandmother's necklace. I left the rest. Drove across town to a month-to-month rental with yellow walls and thin curtains. Changed my number. Deleted all our photos. Blocked him on everything. The first week I kept expecting a knock at the door. The second week I started breathing easier. By week 3 I could go a full day without looking over my shoulder. Until the Friday night at Walmart. I hadn't planned to go out. It was one of those lazy evenings where you forget time exists. I'd been curled up with a blanket and a crime doc I'd already seen twice. I was halfway through reheating instant ramen when I realized I was out of toilet paper and milk. I threw on a hoodie and some jeans, grabbed my keys, and headed to the 24-hour Walmart off Prairie Avenue. It was late, close to 10. The sky had that weird, coppery haze that sometimes settles in before a storm, but the air was dry. The store was nearly empty. A few bored teenagers near the toy aisle, a dad with a cart full of cereal and 2 pajama-clad kids playing tag around it. I moved fast. Milk, toilet paper, a frozen lasagna I didn't even want. I was checking my phone while cutting through seasonal clearance when I felt it. That itch at the back of your neck, the one that makes you look up without knowing why. And that's when I saw him, leaning against a parking lot pole outside, arms crossed, one foot braced like he belonged there, like he hadn't hunted me down, like nothing had changed. Tyler. I dropped the milk. It rolled down the aisle and hit a shelf. My chest turned to ice. He shouldn't have been here. I hadn't told anyone where I lived, not my mom, not my co-workers. Just 2 close friends and a leasing agent with bad Wi-Fi. He looked different, thinner, unshaven, like he hadn't slept right in days. But his stare, that same unreadable stare, locked on me. I backed up, didn't break eye contact, left the basket where it was and walked briskly toward the entrance. He started walking too. I heard my name. Lena, hey, wait. I didn't wait. I didn't even turn. I pushed through the double doors and speed walked toward my car. My hands shook as I hit the unlock button. Lena, he called again. Louder, closer. You blocked me. You think that's fair? I yanked the door open, slid in, locked it. Just as I started the ignition, he reached my window. He slapped the glass. Not hard, not angry, just enough to let me know he could. You think you can just cut me out? He looked half drunk, not stumbling but off, like something was loose behind his eyes. I reversed fast, tires squealing a little. He stepped back, then jogged toward his truck. His old black Chevy parked 2 aisles over. I didn't wait to see what he'd do. I drove. Hard right out of the lot, left at the light, then 2 more turns into a neighborhood I didn't know. I kept the lights off for blocks, circled a strip mall, parked behind an old diner and killed the engine. My breath was short and fast, my palms slick on the wheel, no headlights behind me, no sound. Still, I waited 15 minutes before heading home. I cut through alleys, drove like I was being followed, because I felt like I was. When I finally pulled into the complex, it was quiet, empty. I parked, got out slowly, no one. But as I unlocked my door, something pulled me to look back, and there he was, standing on the opposite sidewalk, under a flickering streetlight, watching. His shirt was half unbuttoned. He swayed on his feet, his lips moved, talking to no one. I slipped inside, locked the door, turned off every light. The apartment disappeared into shadow. I peeked through the curtain. He was pacing now, then yelling, "She doesn't get to do this. I was everything. I gave her everything." He kicked over a recycling bin, then crumpled onto the curb, hands in his hair. I didn't move, just watched. My heart thudded in my throat. I didn't want to call the police. I didn't want to be that woman. I didn't want it to become something worse. Then he stood, staggered into the road, still screaming. And that's when the truck came. A white box truck. No horn, no brake squeal, just that dull thud. He hit the pavement like a puppet with cut strings. The truck pulled over, hazard lights blinking like a warning. The driver stepped out yelling. Someone called 911. I dropped to the floor behind the couch, shaking. The next day, the paper said it was an accident. A tragic, disoriented pedestrian. No drugs, no foul play, nothing suspicious. They didn't say my name, didn't mention the screaming, the stalking, the way he found me even when I changed everything. I didn't go to the service, didn't reach out to his sister when she texted, didn't open the letter his mom mailed, but I wrote it all down. Every piece. The slow unraveling, the gaslight moments, the way love became a leash. I didn't want him dead. I wanted him gone. But now I live with both. And some nights when it's quiet, I hear his voice in my head. You think you can erase me? No, I can't erase him. But I can survive him. How do you explain to someone that freedom can look like fear? Or that survival isn't always clean or kind or easy? All I know is this. Emotional abuse doesn't always leave bruises, but it leaves echoes. You don't owe anyone your silence or your peace. Even if they once said they loved you, what would you have done if it were you? You ever have one of those nights that starts out exactly how it's supposed to, but ends with you questioning everything you thought was safe? I used to think routine meant safety, that if I followed the plan, stuck to familiar patterns, things would stay okay. That illusion died one Friday night at a Walmart just off Highway 51 in Stillwater. I worked 2 part-time jobs, one at the community library and one at a print shop. It's not glamorous, but it pays the rent and keeps the fridge full. Every Friday after my second shift ends, I pick up my younger brother Noah, and we drive out to Walmart for groceries. It's not a big deal to most people, but for us, it's structure. It's normal. It's the one thing that hasn't changed since our parents died 3 years ago. Noah's 15 now. Autistic. Verbal, but easily overwhelmed. Sudden loud noises, abrupt changes in rhythm or light, too many people talking at once. It all hits him like lightning. One second he's calm, the next he's curling in on himself like he's trying to disappear. So I plan everything. I keep noise-canceling headphones in my bag, map our route through the store, rehearse breathing techniques with him in the car. We stick to the outer aisles and avoid weekends like the plague. That night, I don't know what it was. The air felt weird before we even stepped inside. The parking lot was packed, people yelling from car windows, a kid crying somewhere off in the distance. I remember adjusting my hoodie, trying to hide how much my stomach was already tightening. Noah walked close beside me, his elbow grazing mine every few steps. He looked up at me once, not scared, just uncertain, like he was trying to match my mood. We made it through produce and dry goods quickly. Milk, rice, granola bars. He was quiet, but present. I even cracked a joke about the frozen pizza section being rated like a war zone, and he gave me a small smirk. I remember thinking, okay, we're good. Then we hit dairy. That stupid aisle always feels like a wind tunnel. Something about how they've got the coolers lined up, light flickering, hums from the refrigeration units that almost sound like they're growling. Noah stopped moving. His body stiffened. Then, just like that, he dropped the peanut butter from his arms and crouched, palms pressed hard against his ears. People don't understand it. They see a teenager crouching on the floor and assume he's being difficult or weird. But I could see it right away. The shallow breathing, the way his fingers tapped against his leg like a metronome trying to find its beat. He wasn't panicking. Not yet. But he was close. I got down on the floor with him, blocking the oncoming traffic of carts and impatient feet. "Noah," I said quietly. "In through the nose, buddy. 1, 2, out through the mouth." I slipped his headphones from my backpack, placed them over his ears, and guided his hands onto my shoulders. I could feel the tension in him, like holding the lid on a boiling pot. He started stabilizing. I was counting with him when I heard it. The man's voice, loud, aggressive, angry at the world. "I see what you're doing. Don't think I don't see it." It came from the next aisle over, near pharmacy. I could hear the panic in his voice, or maybe it was fury. A man yelling into a phone. Then, a moment later, not yelling into a phone at all, just yelling. "You following me? That it? You think I don't notice you people watching me?" I peeked around the corner and saw him. Mid-40s, scruffy beard, wild eyes. He was shouting at a Walmart employee, a thin man in a yellow vest who looked like he wanted to disappear. The whole aisle had gone still. Some people froze, others quietly backed away. But the man kept ranting, now turning his attention toward random shoppers, accusing, rambling. Something about judgment, about people thinking they were better than him. I pulled Noah gently to his feet. "Come on," I whispered. "We're going." I steered us toward the checkout lanes. I turned. "He's not a freak, he's autistic, leave us alone." The man took a step toward us, fists twitching like he was trying to keep them still. His stare flicked from me to Noah, who was now humming softly under his breath, eyes wide behind his headphones. He mocking me? I stepped in closer. My voice didn't feel brave, but I held the line. "No. He's regulating. You're scaring him." That word again. Regulating. I don't know why I used it. Maybe because it's what therapists say. Maybe because it was the truth. The man sneered. "You people, always using your little excuses. Always looking down on folks like me." Just when I thought he might snap, a manager intervened. Guy in his 30s, radio clipped to his belt. His voice was low and firm. "Sir, I need you to walk with me. Right now." The man yelled some more. Accused the manager of siding with me, but eventually he left, muttering something under his breath. I got us to self-checkout. My hands were shaking as I scanned each item. Eggs, oatmeal, soap. I don't remember what else. I barely looked at the screen, just wanted to get out. We loaded the car fast. I strapped Noah in, tossed the bags into the trunk, and climbed into the driver's seat. And that's when I saw him, standing behind the car, same man, same eyes. But this time he was smiling. No anger, just something worse. Amusement. Like he was watching us play a part in a script he'd written. I tapped the horn. Once. A soft beep, a warning. He didn't move, just tilted his head and waved. Then his fist hit the rear window. Once. Twice. I screamed. Noah jumped. I could hear him crying now, softly, beneath the headphones. I threw the car in reverse and gunned it, not enough to hit him but enough to make him stumble back. I spun the wheel and shot out of the lot like I was escaping a war zone. We didn't stop until we hit Main Street. I pulled over, turned to Noah. He was curled up in his seat, arms around his knees, headphones still on, rocking gently. I called the police that night, filed a report, gave them the time, the store, the description. They found his record, past assaults, disorderly conduct, history of mental illness, they said. They promised to look into it. I nodded, but I knew they wouldn't arrest him, wouldn't follow up, because it didn't get bad enough, because no one was bleeding, because we got away. That night, I lay awake for hours. What if I'd missed him behind the car? What if I'd said the wrong thing? What if I hadn't spoken up at all? I still believe in staying calm, still believe in avoiding unnecessary conflict, but sometimes avoidance doesn't protect you. Sometimes, the thing you're trying to walk away from follows you to your car, waits in the dark, and waves. I don't share this for sympathy. I share it as a reminder. Because maybe someday you'll be in a store, or on a bus, or walking home at night, and maybe you'll see someone who can't speak for themselves. Someone smaller, quieter, vulnerable, and maybe danger will be standing just a few steps away. When that moment comes, I hope you remember, silence doesn't always keep you safe, and fear doesn't mean you don't have courage. It just means you understand what's at stake. Would you be ready to step between someone and a threat, even if your voice shakes? There's a moment in every parent's life, usually sometime late at night when the house is quiet and the hallway light spills a soft glow across your kid's bedroom door, where you catch yourself watching them sleep and wonder how in the hell you're going to keep them safe in a world you barely understand yourself. That moment came for me in the middle of a sticky, sand-blown summer in Albuquerque, 2 months after I finally packed the last of my ex's junk into a trash bag and told him not to come back. I was 28, tired, barely holding on, but surviving. Sierra had just turned 4 and had this wild, sparkly energy about her, like she believed the whole world was a playground, and nothing bad could touch her as long as I was nearby. That blind faith used to break me a little. My name's Callie Mendez, and back then, I was trying to rebuild. We'd moved into a 2-bedroom unit off Catherine Avenue. Cheaper rent, closer to the clinic where I worked as a front desk assistant, and safer, supposedly. It was an older complex with those faded peach-colored walls and broken sidewalk tiles, but people were friendly. You'd see neighbors watering plants, older kids riding scooters, and moms like me carrying grocery bags with toddlers trailing behind. I told myself we'd be okay there, that we were starting over. That illusion didn't last long. The day it happened wasn't anything special. It was just a Saturday. I'd worked half a shift that morning to help cover for a nurse who called in sick. Sierra spent the morning with Miss Trina, our neighbor, who ran a daycare out of her apartment, and by the time I picked her up, she was bouncing with energy, tugging at my hand, asking if we could get the cookies shaped like bunnies from Walmart. I didn't want to go. I remember that clearly. The sky was heavy and flat, the kind of dull heat that makes your skin itch before the sun even touches it. The parking lot was a mess. People honking, reversing without looking, babies crying, carts stuck at odd angles. I almost turned around right there. Almost, but I didn't. Because we needed paper towels and Sierra wanted her bunny cookies, and sometimes you pick what feels like the lesser stress. Inside, it was chaos. Families shouting over shopping lists, teenagers crowding the chip aisle, that endless hum of fluorescent lighting and soft country music looping through the overhead speakers. I strapped Sierra into the cart seat, handed her her pink water bottle and a pack of fruit snacks, and we started making our way along the outer aisles. My usual route. Avoid the center. Stay focused. We passed hardware, then health and beauty. I stopped to compare laundry detergents. I remember this part too well. 2 bottles. 1 store brand. 1 with a name I always bought because it reminded me of my mom. I picked both up, read the labels, flipped them over, did the math in my head, And when I looked up, Sierra was gone. At first I didn't panic. I thought maybe she'd slipped out and crouched behind the seasonal aisle display, the one with the big wire bin of stuffed animals. She'd asked earlier if she could see them. I even said, "Okay, baby, just stay where I can see you." 15 feet, that's all. I could see the bin from where I stood, but when I turned the corner, she wasn't there. My chest went tight. Not full panic yet, but something close. I called her name. Calm at first. "Sierra? Baby, where'd you go?" Silence. I moved faster, pushing the cart around, searching between bins and displays. Then I saw her. She was sitting in a shopping cart. Hers, the same pink water bottle, the same pigtails, next to a man I didn't know. He was tall, wearing a gray hoodie even though it was 90 degrees outside. Faded jeans, face blank. Walking quickly toward the back of the store, past the garden center sign. For a second I froze. My brain didn't want to register what I was seeing. I thought maybe, God, I don't know. Maybe she'd wandered over and climbed into someone's cart. She was friendly. She'd done it once before at Target when she was 3. But then I noticed something that turned my stomach cold. The way the man wasn't talking to her. Wasn't even looking at her. Just walking. Fast. "Excuse me," I called out, still trying to believe I was wrong. "Sir, that's my daughter." He didn't stop. "Hey," I shouted louder. "That's my daughter. Stop." He glanced back, just once. His eyes met mine, and they were empty. Not angry, not surprised, just nothing, like I was background noise. Then he pushed the cart faster. I didn't think. I dropped everything, my purse, the detergent. I ran, sprinting in sandals, dodging people, screaming Sierra's name like my throat was on fire. A few heads turned. Most didn't. Then another man stepped in front of me. Clean-shaven, baseball cap, friendly voice. "Ma'am, hold on, you okay? You look confused. Let me help." "Move!" I screamed and shoved him with everything I had. I think he stumbled. I didn't care. That's when a cashier shouted. And some miracle, some blessed stranger, a woman with 2 kids of her own, sprinted toward the garden section exit and blocked the doors. "Hey!" she yelled. "That's not your kid!" The man let go of the cart. "Just let go." Sierra started crying immediately, arms up, calling for me. He ran through the side emergency exit. Alarms blared. People finally started reacting. The second man, the one who blocked me, was gone. I scooped Sierra into my arms and held her like she'd break apart if I loosened my grip. Her heart was pounding through her shirt. Mine too. My hands shook as I called 911. Words came out of me in fragments. I barely remember what I said. Police arrived fast. Walmart staff scrambled. Some guy in a yellow vest kept saying, "We're checking the footage. We're checking the footage." But it didn't help. The footage was awful. Grainy. Like watching through a foggy shower curtain. The car the guy got into didn't have visible plates. No facial recognition hits. No fingerprints. No leads. "He probably used a burner car," one of the officers said, like it was a line he'd used before. And then, almost like a side note, a detective leaned in and whispered, "This isn't the first this week. One in Rio Rancho, another off San Mateo. Same setup. 2 men, one grabs the kid, one slows down the parent. If nobody screams, they're gone in minutes." I couldn't breathe. All I could think was, what if I hadn't screamed? What if she hadn't dropped her water bottle and that woman hadn't seen? What if he'd made it past the garden center? For days after, Sierra wouldn't sleep unless I was holding her. She'd wake up crying, whispering, "Mommy, don't let the cart man take me." And I'd lie to her, every night, whispering, "No one's going to take you, I promise." But I couldn't promise that. Not really. I quit going to stores, stopped taking Sierra anywhere alone, started using grocery pickup, even though it cost more. Got a little GPS tracker that clips into her shoe. I didn't care if I was being paranoid. I started noticing things I hadn't before. Kids left in carts while moms scrolled through their phones. Toddlers wandering a few feet away while parents compared cereal prices. I wanted to scream, shake them, beg them not to look away. But you can't say that to strangers. Not without sounding unhinged. I signed Sierra up for a kids' safety class at the community center. They taught her to yell, "You're not my parent," and how to make a scene if someone grabbed her. We practiced at home even though it made both of us cry sometimes. It's been nearly a year now. Sierra turned 5 last week. We threw a party at the park. Cupcakes, Paw Patrol, everything. Bubbles floating in the wind. She laughed again, really laughed. And for a moment, I let myself believe maybe she'd forget, but I won't. And I share the story now. I've told it at PTA meetings, at work, online, to anyone who will listen. Because if it happened to me, on a Saturday afternoon in a packed Walmart, it can happen to anyone. People think monsters are obvious. That danger looks like something out of a movie. But most of the time, it looks like nothing at all. A man in a hoodie, a second too long looking away, a world too busy to notice. And that's what still keeps me up. How close they got, how easy it was, how no one saw until I screamed. So I scream in a different way now. I share the truth. I tell every parent I meet, stay alert. Trust your gut. Don't be polite when something feels wrong. Don't be distracted. Don't assume someone else is watching your child, because the second you do, they're gone. And the question I ask you now is this: how many times have you looked away thinking it was only for a second?